The SEC beats up on the ACC. Wait, didn't that just happen?
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Happy Wednesday. Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there. I'm your host today, Isaac Shaden. You're joining me at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks so much for making us one of your first listens or watches of the day. Reminder, you can catch every episode ad-free on Amazon Music. Special shout out to all of you everydayers out there, and of course, all the great members of the Locked On College Basketball Discord community. It's great to be together. Today's episode is brought to you by the CFP on TNT. The college football playoff is here, and you don't want to miss a moment of the action. College football playoff presented by Allstate begins with 4 first-round games December 20th and 21st. That's Friday and Saturday on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. All right, coming up on the show today, potential injury to an Auburn star, a National Player of the Year frontrunner, Doug Gottlieb, out here getting drugged by Schefter. We're going to get you ready for Wednesday's action, including night 2 of the Jumpman Invitational. But first, here we go again. The SEC beating up on the ACC. It happened in night 1 of the Jumpman Invitational and in the Palmetto State. That's South Carolina. That's the Palmetto State, right? I'm pretty sure I'm getting that right. Let's start in Charlotte, North Carolina, where Florida beats North Carolina 90-84 in night 1 of the Jumpman Invitational. Gators keep their undefeated start rolling. For North Carolina, they continue to write this same weird plot that they have all season long, where they start with a first half where they go down by double digits. As they did in this game, Florida got out to a 17-point lead in the first half. They were on fire. North Carolina not on fire. The Tar Heels have played 11 games. They've played 7 games against high major or Dayton opponents. In those 7 games, they've been behind by at least 8 points in the first half of every one of them. And if you take out, they played 1 ACC game against Georgia Tech. They've been down by double digits in 6 of those games in the first half. There have been multiple games where they've made a big run to try and work it coming back in the second half. That happened when they played at Kansas on the first Friday night of the regular season. They made a big run back to push it to overtime against Michigan State. Probably should have won that game at Maui Invitational. And same thing, come all the way back to take a lead in the second half of this game, but cannot hang on to it. And Florida goes on to win. For Florida, this is a big win, because before this game against North Carolina, the Gators had only played 1 quad 1 game, and that was against Arizona State this past Saturday. And that game is barely hanging on to quad 1 status on a neutral site. It's got to be top 50. And as of today's net rankings update, Arizona State was 49th. So, I mean, that's barely hanging in there. So for Florida, this is a first real opportunity to get a big quad 1 win. And I guess some of that depends on how you feel about North Carolina at this point. I mean, maybe you're like, it's actually not a big quad 1 win. I would hear that argument for sure. But for Florida, it's really their only opportunity of the non-con slate to do it, because going forward, they've only got 2 more non-con games, and they're both bye games essentially before starting their SEC gauntlet in January. And the SEC is going to be an absolute bloodbath. I cannot wait for that action. So for Florida to get this game, very, very important, because I don't know about you. For me, watching Florida, they passed the eye test. I believe in this team. I love the 3-guard lineup of Will Richard, Elijah Martin, the FAU transfer, and Walter Clayton Jr. And I believe in them. They've got that, along with 2 6'11" guys, starting in the front court with Alex Condon and Chinyelu. And it's like, man, I think Florida's got it, but their schedule hadn't really allowed us to see them tested at the same way like Alabama or Auburn or North Carolina has. Because say what you will about North Carolina, they're 6-5. 4 of those losses are to the top 8 teams in the land. They've lost to Auburn, Alabama, Kansas, and Florida, all of whom are top 8, and then Michigan State, who's number 20. So, North Carolina, their schedule is very blemished and whereas Florida, unblemished, but it's like we didn't really know what to make of them. And so we needed a game like this to really help us get an understanding of who the Gators are heading into SEC play here in a couple weeks. What was interesting for this game for Florida is that Walter Clayton, leading scorer, he didn't really go off, had some foul trouble. Still scored 12, which is good and fine and respectable. But what was encouraging to me, if I'm Todd Golden, is that in a game where Clayton didn't go off at the same level, both Will Richard and Elijah Martin did. Will Richard 22, Elijah Martin 19. And Richard, by the way, was wildly efficient. 8 of 10 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3, 3 of 4 from the free throw line. Like, that is a great sign for this Gators club as they get ready for SEC play. One of the key storylines for me coming into this was the rebounding battle. Florida came in 14th in the nation in offensive rebounds per game. Carolina came into this game 14th in the nation in defensive rebounds per game. That's a something's got to give kind of stat, right? Like, both of those cannot stay the same. And it was Florida that ended up winning out in the end. All 5 starters had at least 5 rebounds, a whole bunch of which were offensive. They had 16 total rebounds, 16 total offensive rebounds, out-rebounded North Carolina in total by 10. And this discrepancy on the glass was glaring down the stretch. North Carolina had a lead. How about this? Then Allen Lubin, the Vanderbilt transfer from North Carolina, got a defensive rebound with 3 minutes and 3 seconds to go in this game. That was the last defensive rebound that North Carolina got. After that, Florida had 3 possessions, and then one of those got fouled as soon as they caught a rebound. So we won't count that one, but had 3 more possessions after that. They got an offensive rebound on every one of those possessions and scored on every one of those possessions. There you go. That's your ball game right there. North Carolina, with their lack of size, the continued storyline that we talk about, continues to be an issue for Hubert Davis's club, who's going to have to find a different way if they want to compete as they go into ACC play. So looking forward, then, I already said Florida has these 2 bye games, and then they start their SEC schedule in January. And man, right out of the gate, they have to go to Kentucky and then host Tennessee. So that's going to be different. And of course, the SEC is just going to stay like that all season long. For North Carolina, they do have one more opportunity at a key non-conference when they play UCLA Saturday, CBS Sports Classic up at Madison Square Garden. And but that's it. Then they have Campbell to wrap up non-con play, and then they're into ACC play, where the ACC affords you opportunities to get some wins. But that's the problem, is they're not as many quad 1, quad 2 opportunities as, say, Florida will have in SEC play. Let's go to our other game in the Palmetto State. Boy, if I'm wrong about Palmetto State, somebody's got to get me on that one, but we're just leaning into it. Clemson goes to South Carolina, where the Gamecocks upset the Tigers 91-88 in overtime. Look, the SEC has just continued to dominate everybody, but the ACC as well. Remember, they had gotten the big 14-2 win in the ACC SEC Challenge. I mean, it's just crazy. And the thing is, for me with this game, South Carolina needed it more than Clemson did. True road game. All right, you're gonna drop some of those, but at home against a ranked opponent, you want to pick up a victory, and that's exactly what the Gamecocks did. For Clemson, they got what they needed from their dudes. The chef, Ian Shefflin, got 23 and 12. Chase Hunter had 27 points, a bunch of which came in flurries at the end of regulation and overtime. But they didn't get enough from the supporting cast. Let's go to the other bench, where South Carolina had a great balanced attack. They had at least 9 points from all 5 starters, led by Colin Murray Boyle's 22 points. Nick Pringle, who I keep forgetting, by the way, that's a South Carolina Gamecock now, had 18, and Miles Stute had 19. Really, really helpful for South Carolina. What was interesting, though, was the Gamecocks held how big was that lead? An 8-point lead at halftime, extended it to 11 right out of this halftime locker room. But Clemson, man, they explode for 54 points in the second half. They take a lead midway through the half. It's kind of back and forth there. But honestly, I thought South Carolina weathered that and then had the game put away late. They go up by 7 with like a minute 50 left. But then Chase Hunter just goes out, back-to-back threes, has a jumper, and then at the end of regulation has this awkward one-footed banked-in three to send it to overtime. But South Carolina does it again in OT. They take a 7-point lead with like a minute 40 to go. And this time they're able to hold off Clemson. Chase Hunter gets another look at three at the end of the game, and it just falls short and doesn't go in. So, again, great win for South Carolina. Another big win for the SEC, who is just, as we talk about, is it really feasible for the SEC to get 12 wins? With all this non-con work they've done, that's going to prop up the conference standings or not conference standings, but like conference rating so much that it makes it possible, even if they're beating up on each other in conference play. So here's part of why I say this win was more important for South Carolina. For Clemson, they now have back-to-back losses. Yes, but both of those games are in overtime. The previous one was to Memphis, who I think is a legit team. They took that bad loss to Arkansas State. Was that last week? I can't remember now. But outside of that, I think they're a strong team. Yes, that was at home. If you're Clemson, you want to win that game. But they've lost back-to-back games in overtime, and their only other loss was another true road environment at Boise State. So, I mean, it's like I can live with all three of those losses for Clemson, especially knowing that they should be good in ACC play. In fact, as you go to our friends at FanDuel, Clemson has now surpassed North Carolina into second place in the regular season odds to win the ACC. So looking good there. As for Clemson also, their non-conference slate, they're done. All that's left is ACC play now, and they start ACC play with 3 straight home games. They got Wake at home this Saturday, have a bit of a break before hosting Stanford on New Year's Day. I think that's on a Wednesday, New Year's Day, right? Yeah, because it's the same day as Christmas. Christmas is Wednesday, New Year's Day is Wednesday, and then they host Cal that Saturday. For South Carolina, they have these 3 non-con losses. That's part of why this win was so important for them, because one of them was to North Florida. Then they've also lost to Indiana and Xavier. So South Carolina has 2 more bye games, got to win those, and then they start into SEC play. They start at Mississippi State, not easy, but then they host the Alabama schools. Yuck. Thankfully, they get them at home. That's helpful, but man, Alabama and Auburn are so good. Speaking of Auburn, Johni Broome, he left hurt early in Tuesday night's action. Quick update on him, and then Kansas State. They might be in real trouble. We're going to look at all that and more from Tuesday night's action coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about our good friends at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers, you can bet $5, and if you win, you get $150 back in bonus bets. Man, the FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. This is great, like one-stop shopping. Maybe you get a hunch it's the middle of a game. You want to check out the play-by-play or maybe the stats. Man, it's all updated in real time, all right there on that same page where you place your bets. Looking ahead to Jumpman Invitational tonight, we got a ranked matchup, Oklahoma and Michigan. Sooners. I wouldn't have guessed this coming into the season, but they're favored by 3.5. Great work by what they got going there in Norman. So go check that out and so many more lines at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. This episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks. Man, make your holidays bigger and better with Prize Picks, the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. Also, right now you can win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks and do so with peace of mind because their withdrawals, they're fast, they're safe, secure, and they can be available to you in as few as 15 minutes. And so I want you to join now because this holiday season, Prize Picks is giving away 2 free picks in December, and they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas. Sticking with that Michigan-Oklahoma game tonight, remember the way you do Prize Picks is you get a stat, and then you just simply pick more or less. So Danny Wolf tonight, 2.5 assists, more or less. Or I love like these combo platters. Danny Wolf, a combo of points, rebounds, and assists, 26. You going more or less? I'm going more on that one. I think that'd be a great option. His front court mate, Vlad Golden, 14.5 points. Jeremiah Fears, the freshman point guard at Oklahoma, 3.5 assists. Some great more or less options for you. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Again, when you download the app, use code LOCKEDONCollege. You'll get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Okay, gang, let's get right back into it. Last night, I know we've been talking some results. I want to stick with the SEC. Excuse me, quick water break there. Perhaps the biggest news of Tuesday night is an injury to National Player of the Year frontrunner, in my opinion, Johni Broome. Auburn absolutely walloped Georgia State on Tuesday night, 100-59. But the big news, just 2 minutes and 17 seconds into this game, Johni Broome is going up for a rebound, gets kind of awkwardly tangled with a Georgia State Panther. Like his right arm gets hooked up at a weird angle up under the Georgia State player's arms, and like his shoulder kind of pops out of socket. He like runs off immediately to the locker room, done for the night. So that's major concern for Auburn. They're still a strong team, but man, he is the glue that holds that crew together, and they absolutely need him. According to Coach Pearl after the game, he said the shoulder, quote, came out and then came right back in. So, end quote, by the way. So that's good news. And this happened to Johni Broome last year. So it's not like a new thing. We've seen it before, but you still don't like it. As of the time I record this, noon Central Time where I live, no update on it yet, but obviously that's something we need to keep our eyes closely on, especially like Auburn plays Purdue this Saturday down in Birmingham. Critical matchup. They're going to need him against Trey Kaufman-Renn in the post, but you don't want to risk long-term things just to win that non-conference game. So we'll see what happens there. By the way, in Johni Broome's absence, Chaney Johnson, career high 26 points, 8 boards, 4 assists, and 19 from Chad Baker-Mazar. Great stuff there from the Tigers. And, it's one of those things where if it's not all that bad of an injury, it's like, hey, not the worst thing in the world because other guys are having to step up when our dude is out of the game. So we'll see what happens there. Let's go to a couple other results from Tuesday night. Two key ones that I want to hit on. Number 22, Dayton holds off UNLV 66-65 at home. Quite frankly, I thought Dayton was going to pull away in this game early in the second half. They built up, I think it was like an 8-point lead. And I was like, all right, UNLV, they've come across the country a little bit. They're going to start fading here, but didn't. Quite to their credit, UNLV just kept reeling back in the Flyers, even took a lead a couple times down the stretch, had a lead with 23 seconds to go on a Julian Rishwain 3. But Malachi Smith, who didn't have a massive game, I think just 11 points if I remember correctly, he gets an and one with 8 ticks left, made the free throw, and then Deaton Thomas from UNLV misses at the buzzer, and Dayton holds on big time for their just continued to win. They got that massive win over the weekend. All my days are running together right now, you guys. I just got back from Disney with my family, and so it's like, everything's swirling around in my head. But for Dayton to just, once you get that ranking, you want to just keep winning and hold on to it and prove that you are worthy of it. And that's exactly what the Flyers are doing. Let's go to Kansas City, where inside the T-Mobile Center, we had the Wildcat Classic, Kansas State and Drake. Drake wins this thing 73-70 in overtime. Florida, not the only undefeated team to hold on Tuesday night, and kind of a similar storyline, honestly, to what Florida did. Florida got that massive lead against North Carolina, allowed the Tar Heels to come back and take a lead, but then Florida comes back to win. That's almost exactly what Drake did. They held, listen to this, a 20-point lead over K-State with 5:30 to go in the first half. K-State had cut it down to 9 by halftime. In fact, they, similar to North Carolina, came all the way back to take a lead in the second half. Coleman Hawkins hits a 3 with 13 seconds to go in the first overtime. Looks like we're headed for 2, but Bennett Sturts. And I honestly, this frustrates me to no end. It's a tie basketball game, and I feel like all the time we see dudes settling for 3. Go to the rim and either make it or force the ref to make a call. I just don't understand that. Anyway, Bennett Sturts, no, yes, hits a 3. Very confidently from the top of the key. 4 seconds to go. K-State does get a look. Max Jones gets a 3 at the buzzer, deep, but a good look. Just misses, and Drake holds on. 25 points for Mitch Muscari in this game, 22 for Bennett Sturts, who hit the game winner. Great Drake, great story there. Still undefeated, like I said, just like Florida. And we're going to see what happens for them. All they have left in their non-con slate is Green Bay. We're going to talk about Green Bay in a second. Ooh, Doug Gottlieb. Yikes. But Green Bay's not great. If they can beat them, they complete a perfect non-con slate before they head into Missouri Valley play here pretty soon. As for K-State, they fall to 6-4. And, we were comparing this game to Florida and North Carolina. Unlike North Carolina's 6-5 record, K-State doesn't have the same high-level losses that North Carolina does, and that's a problem for Kansas State. So things right now don't look good for Jerome Tang's club. Remember, Achor is no longer with the team. I was just looking at KenPom, and Kansas State is favored in 4 games the rest of the season. They're the underdogs in 16 of their 20 Big 12 games. That ain't good. That is not good. Now, because of how good the Big 12 is, there's opportunities to turn things around, but unfortunately, I'm not hopeful that they're going to be able to do it. So we're going to have to keep our eyes on that and see what happens with K-State. But I expect to see them at or near the cellar of the Big 12, unfortunately. Elsewhere, quickly, in Big East play, both Nova and St. John's get Big East wins on Tuesday night. That's always good, especially for Villanova, who it's like, yeesh. But these wins, to be fair, Nova beats Seton Hall, St. John's beats DePaul. So, there's that. But hey, it's a win. Unfortunately for DePaul, it means that their Big East winless streak carries on and continues. For St. John's, by the way, they're all the way up to 12th at KenPom right now, 9-2 on the season. Those 2 lone losses to Baylor and Georgia on neutral sides, you can live with those. But as for St. John's, they're into Big East play now. They do have one more non-con game, but it's against Delaware, who's like 230-something at KenPom. So now for St. John's, it's just about focusing on Big East play and continuing to roll, because there's a lot of possibility there if they can keep this thing going. Nearly top 20 in both offensive and defensive efficiency at KenPom. Really encouraging stuff there. Now, I mentioned Doug Gottlieb. Woo! He and Adam Schefter got into it on Twitter on Monday. I want to talk about that. The fight in Gottlieb's not looking good so far, and get you ready for Wednesday night's action. And we'll do all of that coming up here in just a second. But first, though, I need to tell you that the college football playoff action is coming to you this weekend on TNT. It is that time of year. College football playoff is back. And with the newly expanded 12-team playoff format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins this Saturday, December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern. That'll lead us into our first matchup, Southern Methodist University Mustangs, that's SMU, battling the Penn State Nittany Lions up in Pennsylvania at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers travel to Austin looking to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. Okay, did you all see this crazy interaction between Doug Gottlieb and Adam Schefter? I mean, this was wild. Sorry, water break there. My throat is struggling today. I mean, this thing. Okay, here's what happened on Monday, if you didn't see it. Adam Schefter tweets out, I'm going to timestamp all these, 3:12 p.m. He just tweets, Sacramento State is in discussions to hire former Pro Bowl QB Mike Vick as its new head coach, per sources. Sacramento State plans to move up to FBS. They're in FCS right now, is building a new stadium and has over $50 million in NIL. Sac State would build an experienced coaching staff around Vick that is in line with the new frontier of college football. Mike Vick has already told the Virginian Pilot that he has spoken with Norfolk State officials about that job. Okay, here's the thing. There has been pushback or suggestion that this $50 million number is a misrepresentation of some sorts. I don't care. I don't want to get into all that. This is a basketball show, and that's why we're talking about it, is the Doug Gottlieb of it all. I don't care about the Sacramento State side all that much, with due respect to Sac State. Because here's what happens. At 7:12 that night, just about 4 hours later, Gottlieb quote tweets this from Shefty and says, geez, Shefty, edit what the agent tells you. 0 0.0% chance Sac State has $50 million in NIL, end quote. Also, I love that he didn't just say 0%, 0.0% chance. So I'm like, ooh, Gottlieb out here like name checking Schefter, and that's going to get to you, right? Yes, absolutely. So here's Schefter about 20 minutes later at 7:35 p.m. just responds to the content side of it. And he says, the Sac-12 leading the school's NIL efforts already announced it has reached its initial goal of raising $50 million in NIL funds to strengthen the school's case for an invitation to the Pac-12 or Mountain West Conference. End quote. My understanding, by the way, is that the $50 million is conditional on them making it to the Pac-12. So just there. But then also, so he sends that at 7:35. 13 minutes later, it's like he had been thinking about it, and couldn't help himself. And then he responds in kind, quote tweets Doug Gottlieb and says, and geez, Doug, a 7-game losing streak and last place in the Horizon League, less time on social media, and more time in the gym, end tweet. Oh my gosh. But here's the crazy part. As if the words aren't bad enough, he also sends a screenshot of the Horizon League standings with Green Bay all the way down there at the bottom. I mean, imagining Schefter out here on his phone, taking a screenshot, you do all the dragging of the corners to get it just so. Like, the fact that he went to all of that trouble, that he responded, I mean, this is awesome. I love it when these, like the higher level media guys are going back and forth at each other like this. It's so hilarious. Give it to me all the time. By the way, go read all the replies in this because they are great, phenomenal stuff. And what's missing in the whole conversation, by the way, is that later on, Gottlieb never really responded to the personal attack, but he did respond to the other side of it. He said, have to raise money for a stadium, coaches, and then NIL. Saying it is $50 million in NIL is disingenuous. So it's like, it's just, man, this is so funny to me. And then later on his show, Gottlieb said, talked about it, discussed it, and ultimately said, I completely understand my tone was pretty negative, meaning his tone back to Schefter. And then he said, I didn't think I went as personal as he went. And that's true, man. Like Schefter, it was a personal attack against Schefter, but Schefter, man, just went all in on this thing. And look, this is the deal. When we talked this summer, when Gottlieb got this job, it was like, if he's going to choose to stay in media, this is the kind of stuff that's going to happen and that we're going to see and deal with and laugh at. I mean, if he's going to take this job, the head coaching job, continue his podcasting, his radio show, and the team's not good, he's going to catch shots, man. That's just the reality of it. So anyway, I thought it was funny. Just wanted to make sure you all had seen it. Wednesday night's action. It is night 2 of the Jumpman Invitational. Remember, this is the 3rd year of the 3-year cycle. The 4 teams involved: Oklahoma, Michigan, Florida, North Carolina. And they've all faced off. So this is the 3rd year of the round robin. And we also have each night is a men's game and a women's game. So tonight we have Michigan and OU. That's at 9 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be on ESPN2. Oklahoma favored by 3.5. And then we also have the Florida women and the North Carolina women. Interestingly, for the 2nd straight year, Oklahoma comes into this event undefeated and also 10-0. Last year, this was the moment where they were exposed as kind of some frauds, Oklahoma. They went 10 and after that 10-0 start, they went 10-12 the rest of the way. I don't feel the same about this team. From what we've seen from Oklahoma, from freshman Jeremiah Fears, from these guards that they've got rolling, I think they're a better team. They come in 14th in the nation. Michigan is 24th. But the thing is, I really like this Michigan team too. The Twin Towers, we were just talking about them, of Vlad Golden and Danny Wolf. Really like what they're bringing to the table. I'm excited for this game. I kind of see it as the guards of Oklahoma against the bigs of Michigan. Something's got to give there. What wins out should be a lot of fun. But the precursor to that game, again, that game's at 9 Eastern on ESPN2. At 7 Eastern on ESPN2, we have number 21 Memphis. We talked about the Tigers earlier, at Virginia. True road game. Memphis, though, favored by 4.5 at John Paul Jones. This is an opportunity for Penny Hardaway's club to continue doing things to erase that Arkansas State loss we referenced earlier. I know Virginia is not great, but still, a true road win over an ACC school would be great for Memphis's tournament resume. So I'm going to be tuned into ESPN2 tonight. I hope that you will be as well. We've got some more Big East action going on. 3 games. 2 of them involved ranked teams, but both those teams are at home. It's Xavier at UConn, 7 Eastern on FS1. UConn minus 13.5 at FanDuel. Following that is Butler at number 9 Marquette, 9 Eastern on FS1. Marquette by 13.5. I'm not expecting anything big to happen in either of those games, but Xavier and Butler need key wins, getting them on the road at ranked opponents against 2 of the teams that we expect to be right there at the top of the Big East. That would be massive. The tricky game in the Big East tonight is Creighton going to Georgetown. That's 6:30 Eastern on CBS Sports. Creighton is favored, but just by 3.5. Really, really important game for these Blue Jays to go win. So that's the Big East game I think I'm going to be most honed in on tonight. A couple other intriguing games that you should be watching. We've got a West Coast Big Ten game. You know who it is? Washington State at Washington. Yes, that's a West Coast Conference and Big Ten action. I literally have to put that in my notes so that I continue to remember what conference. Like, I know it if I stop and think about it, but it's just wild. So this game, 11 Eastern, so get a nap in on FS1. So we got a triple header on FS1 tonight. Huskies favored by 2.5 in that one, although I'm riding Washington State straight up in that game. Yes, ride with me. Let's do it. Here's an intriguing game. I love it when teams do this. Alabama going on the road, true road game at North Dakota. Why? You might ask. By the way, this game is at 9 Eastern on CBS Sports. Bama favored by 24.5. It's going to follow the Creighton-Georgetown game. It's a homecoming game for Grant Nelson. Some coaches do this with some regularity, and I love it when they do. A true road game to get a guy a game close to his home so family and friends can come see it. Typically, it's like a senior or a super senior in this case. So really cool. A couple other games I'm interested in. Here's one to just keep your eye on. I often have these like just keep your eye on it type games. And here's one. Stanford Buckyball going on the road to Arizona. This game's 9 Eastern tonight on ESPN Plus. Arizona favored by 19.5. They should win that game. But the craziness of Buckyball might just be enough to spring something, or at least stay within that 19.5 number. I'm not going to take Stanford to win straight up, but give me inside the number, Stanford to cover on the road. Very intriguing mid-major game for me. VCU going on the road to New Mexico, to the pit, baby. This one, probably not going to be able to watch it because it's at 9 Eastern on the Mountain West Network. Lobos favored by 3.5. Check that one out. An under-the-radar mid-major game that I'm really excited about, San Francisco at Bradley. So we got some more West Coast action, but this is at Missouri Valley School, 8 Eastern on ESPN Plus. Bradley favored by 2.5. Big opportunity for Chris Gerlifson's team to go in and do work. Now, we talk so much about undefeated teams. We don't often talk about the win-less teams. Just like we have 5 undefeated teams, we have 5 remaining winless teams. Jackson State, Alcorn State, they're in the same conference, so one of those is eventually going to win a game. Chicago State and Coppin State, bad year for the states. Those 4 schools winless, but we have one in action tonight, and that's Canisius against Loyola Chicago. Not going to win that game. Ramblers favored by 24.5 in that one. But I bring up Canisius because they are underdogs per KenPom in literally every game the rest of the way. So look, Canisius, come on, baby. Surprise the world tonight. Go beat Loyola Chicago. That'd be wild for their first win of the season. So we'll track that as we're tracking the undefeated teams as well. All right, guys, great to be together today. Thanks so much for hopping in live with me here on a Wednesday afternoon. If you haven't already subscribed to Locked On College Basketball on YouTube, go down there and click that button real quick. And if you're not listening on audio, go find your favorite audio platform and subscribe there. If you're not joined the Locked On College Basketball Discord community, would love to have you there. It's a great place to be with other people who love college basketball and talk about it all the time. Links in the show notes. It's absolutely free to join. All right, guys, you know the deal. Apologies to the lawyer family. Let's go Wildcats. And until we talk again tomorrow, peace.